Hello everybody, my name's James, welcome to the Planet FPL Gameweek 12 Deadline stream in partnership with FPL Team, and it's live. We are coming up to 5 past 10 AM on Saturday, November the 22nd. 9 game weeks in 6 weeks, I believe. The busy festive period for FPL is about to begin now, as per usual, up until the 11 AM UK deadline. I'll answer as many of the dilemmas coming in via the YouTube chat as I can. Questions will be answered in order of submission. Repeat/similar questions may well be skipped. Before I get into them, let me take you through graphics. My team, top right hand corner of the screen. I always say play it your way, so I've made the same transfer as everyone else, or everyone's made the same transfer as me. Deal with that however you want. Van Dijk in for Gabriel. I'll be on wildcard in around about 2 hours. I really didn't want to make a transfer this week, but with the free flags, Gabriel, Semenyo and Konsa, felt like I had to make a move. There was also the value perspective of Van Dijk over Gabriel. I knew I was going to have Van Dijk on wildcard, so he is in now. I line up this week for Bruggen, Timber, Joachim Anderson, Van Dijk, Ismail Assar, Enzo Fernandez, vice-captain Bruno Fernandes, Antoine Semenyo, Jared Bowen, captain Erling Haaland, João Pedro on the bench, Lucas Perry, Ezri Konsa, Josh King and Aaron Wan-Bissaka. You will see my predicted lineups for all 20 teams rotating below that to the bottom right hand corner of the screen. Extreme bottom ticker has got all the flag players and next 5 fixtures for all teams. To the left of me, you'll see my correct score predictions for the 10 games, and that will rotate with my preference for captaincy. If I owned Mo Salah this week, I would captain him. There isn't anybody else that I would take Haaland on with. If I was sitting there with Salah and Haaland, I'd feel bloody obliged to do it, unfortunately. I'm not saying it's necessarily the right choice, but I'd feel a necessity to do it. And directly below me, you'll see the benching dilemmas, where there are 2 players together. The player with the tick is the preferred option to start. They run in order, left to right in terms of preference, and also in terms of pages 1 to 4. You will see some goalkeepers on page 5 of that as well. That will rotate during the course of the stream. That is the graphics done for you. Please check them. You may find the answer to your question on the screen. If you do so, the courtesy of deleting the question will be very much appreciated. I want to say good luck, everyone. Play it your way. Let's do the questions. Jay Pizzou says, morning, fella. Bench one out of Enzo, Voltamare and Ndai. Guess what? You'll find all of them on the benching dilemmas screen, mate. Yura Smolevich, hello mate, says, good morning James, what are your thoughts on the following transfers from -4? Gabriel, Semenyo and Voltamade for Timber, Bumo and Welbeck. I think Voltamade could be really useful game weeks 14 and 15 particularly. It's not sounding like Johan Visser is particularly any closer at the moment. Eddie Howe's talking about him starting a pre-season. Yeah, I probably wouldn't be moving Voltamade on at this moment. I think that will look much better this time next week. Get the appeal of Welbeck. Is it definitely better over the next 4? Questionable. Gabriel to Timber. Yeah, if that's the one you want, is obviously absolutely fine. Get that done. Gabriel is a sell for everybody, by the way, guys. I think Arteta's give you enough yesterday to suggest he's probably going to miss at minimum 4 game weeks. And this scan in midweek is probably going to suggest that it might well be longer, unfortunately. Semenyo out for Bumo. Again, there's a value appreciation to this. If you're up in big value with Semenyo, I wouldn't sell. My instinct is he will play. But if you're looking to move Semenyo on and want Brian Bumo, I understand that move. You may need to go Voltamade to Welbeck to make the others happen. Me personally there, mate, I'll just be going Gabriel to Timber. Sean Godman says, hi James, hope you're well. Bench one of Semenyo, Joachim Anderson or Marino. Anderson, mate. Sheridan says Szoboszlai or Tavernier. Probably Szoboszlai. Because one good thing is if he does play right back, that's where he's been, as Harry Daniels said on Monday's podcast, that seems to be at the points where he's hitting DEFCON. I probably would just about still favour him, I think. I wouldn't buy him. If that's the question, I wouldn't buy Szoboszlai at this moment. Remember, he's on 4 yellows. Aaron McCorden says, good morning, mate. Hope you're well. Would you be starting today out of Thiago or Semenyo? Still Semenyo, mate. Both on the bench in dilemmas. Origino9 says, morning, mate. Hope all is well. Should I bench Voltamade or King? Also thinking about going for Alisson instead of Pope, as I have no Liverpool defender. Thoughts as in what to buy? Surely you don't own Alisson and Pope. I don't mind the investment in Alisson. There isn't a guarantee that he plays today. Voltamade or King, you're asking the wrong guy, mate. I'm always going to say the forward. Chewy FPL says, hi, mate. Should I play James over Tarkowski or play it safe with minutes? I would take my chance with Reece James. I do have him in my predicted Chelsea lineup. Vivek Gore says, hi, James. Bench Timber for Thiago or Ndiaye? If yes, who to start from the two? If so, who to bench from the two? Tough one, that. Bench Timber for Thiago and Ndiaye. I mean, Ndiaye as a pen take, I know it's a worse fixture, but as a pen take, there's temptation in it. If you're asking again, you're kind of asking the wrong guy because I'm not going to tell you to like bench the Arsenal player. I would probably bench Ndiaye from that. You could replace Calafiori with Timber in terms of benching dilemmas. Thiago would be top of the shot for me, talisman. Harry B says, yes, James, saw you predicted Thiago to blank. Would you still start him over Minter? Cheers. Yeah, absolutely. Listen, let me say something with the Hall and blank videos. Number one, I've been wrong a lot this year. Number two, I don't go for safe picks on it. I don't, Haaland's a Hall. Like, I try not to do that. I'm only going to do Haaland if he's got a really tough fixture. So don't, take too much of that to heart. I think, look, it's a challenging away game. Brighton have kept clean sheets in the last two. Yeah, he's popular. I've stirred the pot, right? Tahusmi, says, have 2 free transfers. Would you do Gabriel to Virgil van Dijk and roll the second, or Gabriel and Semenyo to Reynaldo and Saka? Yeah, I would just go Van Dijk personally, mate, at this moment. I don't think with Chelsea away next week, there's a kind of a steaming rush for Bukayo Saka personally. Drac Lorien says, would you use your free transfer to get someone in for either Semenyo or Gakpo if your first sub is Rangers? Would you use your free transfer to get someone in for either Semenyo? I certainly wouldn't be selling Gakpo at this moment, mate. My good. No. I really, really, really would not be selling Gakpo. Personally, wouldn't be selling Semenyo this week. I get the wanting to go up to Bumo stuff, but personally, no, I wouldn't be doing that. Oh, that's very kind of you, YouTube, to move the chat for me. Thank you. Oh, shite. Hang on. Sorry. Very unkindly, YouTube has bugged out all the questions that were placed in prior to 10 a.m. I don't know where they've gone. It's like everything that was placed prior to the stream starting is near enough gone. Not completely, but anything prior to 10:01. I'm very sorry, guys. It's taken them all away from me. I don't know why. I'm trying to find them. I know there was more. But yeah, they're not there. I can only apologise, guys. I'm going to have to go to 10:01. Fancy News says, morning, James. Hope all is well with you and yours. Would you bench boost this week with Verbruggen, Jockey Manderson, Rodon and King? Subscribe and smash a like. Cheers for the content and best of luck for the derby. Thank you. They're all at home, mate, so that would probably be enough for me. Yeah. Damara House says, hi, James. Would you play Rangers or take a -4 for Bumo? I'm on wildcard 13. Yeah, that I would take the -4 for, mate. D. Dot says, hi, James. Would you take a -4 to remove any of Semenyo, Enzo or Ndiaye for Saka, Bruno, Bumo? I have 4 million in the bank and I've already used my 1 free transfer to get rid of Gabriel. Enzo, you're probably going to want to move on next week. That entry point for Bruno, Bumo, Saka doesn't feel right next week. They've all got challenging away games. And I wouldn't want to sell Enzo this week. Ndiaye to one of the others. I mean, Ndiaye to Bumo for a -4. I'm not specifically going to argue against, but I do think he's a very reasonable keep to AFCON, Ilman and Ndiaye. If Everton do well, he probably will. Anton Phillips says, thoughts on bench boost this week? Dubravka, King, Chalobah, Timber on the bench. That looks strong. You're probably definitive by Chalobah. I've got him in my predicted lineup, but there can't be a guarantee that he plays. Would having Timber, King still be enough? Again, it's going to completely come down to the Arsenal clean sheet under that circumstance. If I knew Chalobah was going to play, Anton, I would say absolutely, definitely. Also questionable, perhaps, why those two players on your bench. You must have a very strong defence this week. I understand a few people do. Headley M says, hi, would you keep Semenyo on wildcard and Welbeck versus Thiago on wildcard 12? This is a difficult one for me to answer because I don't know if I'm going to keep Semenyo myself next week. I would say, again, there's a little bit of value in this. If you were late to Semenyo, I'd take him on. If you've owned from like 7 million-ish and a little bit higher, I'd probably be keeping him at this moment. That's still a really good fixture. Unless, of course, you're struggling to fit in players that you really want. Like, would I go Gakpo over Semenyo this week? Yes. Would I go Bumo or Cunha over him? Yes. So if it's a relation to that, then fine, bin. I suppose you're not going to have 4 players in and around that value. Peter says, morning, James. Thanks for the great content as always. Good luck this week. Smash a like, folks. Thank you. For our patrons watching along live, by the way, if we've got any team leaks, obviously particularly with Chelsea being the early kickoff, please do drop me a tag on Slack and I'll get it shared with the chat here. CCL says, hi, James. And die for Cunha worth a transfer. And die for, I presume you mean and die to Cunha. I'd be quite tempted by that for free. Yeah. We're kind of just deliberating a similar one from -4 for free. I'd be quite interested. Ben Thomas says, I didn't see the point waiting until next week to wildcards. I can get 2 Liverpool, 2 City, 2 Bournemouth, 2 Palace, 2 United. Wish you luck. James OYC says, would you do Sade to Saka or Bruno for free or just roll? Roll, because out of those 3, I'd want Kevin Sade the most of those 3 next week, and I mean that. Eshan says, thoughts on Cunha? Great punt. I don't think he's been playing great recently. He was pretty quiet at White Hart Lane in Gameweek 12. Sesko's ruled out for a month. When Sesko comes back, Bumo disappears. They haven't got any other cup competition commitments. His minutes should largely be quite good. Yeah, I quite like it. I prefer the going to Bumo, even though he's going to leave in a few weeks. But yeah, I'd be very happy with Cunha if I couldn't get there. And I'd be happy to have both. There's every chance I'll be going with both next week. Yago says, do you see a Semenyo 1-pointer as a big risk? No, I suppose not. I don't think even if I had another free transfer available, I don't think I'd have sold him this week personally. It's a little different for me as well in the sense, obviously, I'm on wildcard next week. No. Am I worried? I think he plays or he doesn't play is the most likely. Next up is Michael English says, morning, James. Gabriel and Reinders to Richards and Cunha or to Saliba and Doku, sorry. Richards and Cunha, I think, mate. Charlie Edwards says, I have Semenyo and Calafiori in my 11 and a bad bench of Reinders, Wan-Bissaka, Dewsbury Hall. Would you take a hit for anything? Looking to wildcard in 13. How much money in the bank? Like, if you can get Reinders up to like an Ismail Assar level kind of play, then yeah, I probably would. Murphy says, Ndai to Bumo, Gakpo will roll this week. I probably in that circumstance would either them. Again, for free, yeah, I'm probably getting it done. Preference between Bumo, Gakpo. I would be quite happy to go Gakpo and reassess that in 2 game weeks. That would probably be my view at this moment. NFFC Dan says, hi James, would you do Voltamani to Welbeck this week or roll the free transfers? Okay, so you got a number in there. So that makes that more viable, I think, the fact you've got additional transfers there and you want to use some. How much do you want to say a Brentford next week or Manchester City? That's a reference. Like, how many do you think you're going to use next week? If you're not that interested in those sort of things, yes, I probably would do that, knowing that you could kind of hokey-cokey that. Amanda Bergen says, hi, James. Is it too risky to play O'Reilly over Joachim Anderson this week? What's too risky about it? The fact that Man City are one of the best defences in the league and Fulham aren't. They're right next to each other on the bench in dilemmas, so it's a very close call. The favouritism is with Anderson for this particular week. Billy T Production says, yes, Jay Lynn's currently on triple Arsenal defence. I'm taking out Gabriel and Gordon with 2 free transfers this week. Do you prefer Saka, Alderete or Sarr, Saliba? Alderete would be 5th defender. Sarr, Saliba for me, mate. Ben Thomas says, Goo allows me to have Bumo, Cunha, Sarr, Semenyo and Gakpo. It's tempting to go with that. Okay. Jalike says, hi James, on wildcard, pick 2 from Joachim Anderson, Chow and De Ligt to have a 4th and 5th defender for the long term. We can come back for Malik Chow if you need to. I'd be going with the other 2. Malcolm Shield says, diabetes to Saka for a hit. We got to work out who diabetes is now. That's literally what it says. Diabetes. Who's got sugar level issues in the Premier League? Probably a lot of them. Don't know who that is. Diabetes. Is that Diakite? We don't have a Diakite at centre back. It's like as close as we've got. Yeah, sure. Live once. Take out diabetes for Saka. Shafwan Kanka says, went to see David Ginola at a charity game in France, but he didn't end up playing. How would you rate him against today's Premier League wingers? Extraordinary talent, brilliantly left-footed, such a fun player to watch. Would have struggled more in the modern game with the amount of work that attacking players have to put in, not even just in terms of tracking back and helping a fullback, but from the pressing level. It struggled. It struggled to get into a top team. It's just the reality of you'd have to function so much to accommodate for him with every team pretty much wanting to play it. I know, realise there's more direct football, but to first and foremost, most teams do want to go out from goal kicks. Be a problem. What a player, though. Abdul Hamid says, good day, James. Thoughts on Rangers to Szoboszlai for a hit? A champion worth a punt. Smash the like, everyone. Champion, you're probably not going to get locked in terms of blocks of 3 Chelsea players over this forthcoming period. But if you have got a Casado or Fernandes, it only takes a Palmer to return and João Pedro to hit form, and you're like, oh, what's happened here? So probably not. Could a champion get minutes? I mean, even if one of Fofana or Chalobah's rested today, I've got Adarabioyo in a predicted Chelsea lineup, for example. So if you want minutes out of it, probably not personally. Rangers to Szoboszlai for a hit. You're going to feel Szoboszlai gets booked today, mate. I mean, it's a no from me. Could play right back as well. I'd rather you look, if you're doing that sort of thing, I'd rather you look at something that's going to be more consistent for you from a minutes perspective. I realise Szoboszlai, I think it's played every minute in the Premier League this year, but with a little bit more upside. I'm going to say like something like Minter. Right. I would prefer that. Would I go Rangers to Minter for a hit? Ultimately, you're going to want to move Rangers on. Is there a chance that you sit here next week and it's like, oh my God, I've got Rangers now with these fixtures? You're probably never going to get rid of that. Yeah, I'd move it on, but I wouldn't be Szoboszlai for me at this moment in time following the Liverpool team news yesterday. Next up is Onolo Mosesco. I don't know why YouTube seems to have added like numbers to names and stuff. It's playing havoc. 1. So with Bergvall and Sarr past fit, if you reckon you're going back 3, captain bust on Saka may put me off. 2. If penalties didn't exist, any reason I shouldn't bench Enzo over Senesi or Minter? They do exist. There's every chance João Pedro, I'd take it anyway, mate. I would play Enzo Fernandez over Senesi this week. In terms of Tottenham going back 5 tomorrow, it's 50-50. That's all I can tell you, mate. It's 50-50, and I certainly wouldn't look at it and think that wouldn't mean Saka could do really well, right? So I wouldn't take what I've said tactically as a definitive, oh, I don't want to do that. My confidence in Tottenham doing it is kind of like 60-40. I'm not like, this is what we're going to do. So I wouldn't let that put you off. I think I'm probably in the minority. Also, factor that. If I said that to most other Tottenham fans, they'd go, no, you're not doing a back 5. All right, fair enough. So I wouldn't let just my words necessarily impact on that. Adam Warner says, morning, James. Who would you go for as your keeper on a wild card? I'm on Alisson as it stands. I'm going to be honest with you. I've slated him all season long, and there is a strong chance that Bart Verbruggen will stay for me. The rotation with Dubravka pretty much up until roundabouts game week 31 is really good. And I might just go with that. Robert Sanchez is a tempter, but I don't love Chelsea's fixtures over the winter period. It does give some skin on it, but I don't think it's necessarily needed. I would like Alisson a little bit cheaper to go down. It feels like a call of, I'm not sure on enough Liverpool assets. So I think for Bruggen and Dubravka as a pairing, is, as it stands, is actually going to be the most likely for me. And I'm probably going to shoot myself, mate. Greg Frost. It's like everyone's kind of handles is coming up. YouTube's acting really weird today. I don't really want to touch anything because I lost some of the chat last time I did. So apologies if you feel like I'm reading your name out incorrectly. I know it's Greg Frost. Says, if you see your question further up the chat, could you kindly remove yours? Cheers, Greg. Yeah. Joe Banks says, hi, James. Would you bench boost if you had Semenyo and Enzo? Actual benches, Dubravka, Rodon, Joachim Anderson and Longstaff. I think Semenyo play. Shoot me if that's wrong. I've got no intel on that, by the way. Very unlikely to get anything on Bournemouth. I think you'll most likely play. So, yes, probably. Start Dubravka or Pope says R28 I'd go Pope, mate. James Brennan says, hi, James. No Salah or Haaland. Free hit game week 13. When are good opportunities for triple captain? Thanks and have a good weekend. Haaland 17. You're looking for alternatives outside of those two players. Saka at home to Wolves 16 maybe. Yeah, it's not many different. Not many different. Liverpool player 18 or 19. Bruno Fernandes, Bumo be gone. Bruno Fernandes, Cunha game week 19. Maybe one or two, those two game week 14 at home to West Ham. There's a few. Like, there'll be opportunities. There are opportunities, definitely. If I was a triple captainer, if I still had it left and wasn't sure, I wouldn't stress about that. Actually, at the moment, there'll be opportunities. I think even worst case scenario, a Manchester United player at home or a Liverpool player in game week 19, he's okay. Just obviously don't get left with too many chips would be the advice. Next up is Rumblefish NZ. Sorry if already been asked. Bench one of Ahmad, Marino, Delap or Dango Utara. That's an interesting team. I think Delap will play. Marino will play. I wouldn't bench. Ahmad, no. Probably Utara. Daniel Greski says, any love for Ismail Assar as a captain this week, James? And good luck. Thank you, mate. You too. No, not really. I think the problem with Sarr Mateta from a captaincy, they could do really well. We previewed this game on the weekender last week, and I spoke about what Wolves might do, what Rob Edwards probably wants to do, the best strategy to try and stop Crystal Palace on the day. If Wolves go aggressive, they get well beat. But the best way to play Palace is to sit in and ask questions of them in terms of their ability to create. That would be the smart play. We've got nothing to know which way Rob Edwards will play it. So there's a punt element to it. Wolves go aggressive and try and attack from the off. Sarr, Mateta, good choices. They don't and not. And if I've got nothing that I can tell you that makes me say, yeah, definitive this, other than I'd look at it and go, well, I'm not going to do that against Palace because that's not the best way to try and beat them if you're a club like Wolves. Charlotte Frost says, play Voltamade or King or Anderson, attacking player. Matt Henworth says, do you think it's best to have a dead spot in the team? You mean like a Margu or something like that? Like it's fine. I wouldn't want too many of them. I'm kind of getting uncomfortable with teams I see with like Krupi, Goo and like Potts, for example. I'm like, oh, you're going to need a bit more help over Christmas. But like, yeah, one's fine, mate. Next up is Tom Salvadori says, hi, James. I'm on wildcard 12, bench boost 13. Would you buy Kelleher, Ahmad, or Dubravka? Team is Petrovic, VVD. I'm not going to read your whole team out, mate. Wildcard 12, bench boost 13. Would I buy Kelleher, Ahmad, or Dubravka, Cunha? Dubravka, Cunha, mate. I mean, Burnley next week by the Brentford. It's all right, mate. Banoff Master says, smash. Have a great derby weekend. Senesi. If you're trying to tell me to buy Senesi, thank you, mate. You too. Cremoso 100 says, hi, James. Would you get Semenyo if you're on wildcard this week? I've kind of already covered that. What's best 3.9 defender in wildcard? Probably Estev. He's dropped to there now, isn't he? Probably that. Ethnic Poshego says, hi, James. Would you do Tarkovsky, Reinders to Saliba, Anderson? That's going to be Elliot. It would mean I bench Anderson, but would swerve as a cover for Semenyo. Since I'd sold Gabriel to Virgil currently, I don't have an Arsenal defender. I don't think it's in must territory. I get the want for Saliba. I think it's fine, by the way. Nothing wrong with going Saliba. I considered it quite a bit myself last night in terms of having that just for this week. Arsenal v Liverpool. Well, I just couldn't. I would think about how Forest defend set plays, and I wouldn't have forgiven myself. I didn't go Van Dijk, I think. it's okay. Just, I don't know, Anderson for cover. I've had this discussion with Suj quite a bit recently. If it's just a cover, do you want to come in a bit cheaper? I mean, for cover this week specifically, I'll give you a different name, Diego Gomez at Brighton. Doesn't sound like Matoma's going to be available. Probably still plays. 4.9, capable. Much better fixture. Next up is Ratdog27. Hey, mate, where would Chalobah sit on your benching order? Tossing up between him and Dye and Senesi. Cheers. It's a tough one, this, because we can't be sure that he plays. Not going to be Defcons in it, I don't think. It's really are relying on a clean sheet. It's probably below Ndiaye, I think. Probably, yeah. I've got Ndiaye above Senesi as well. So it probably is Chalobah beneath the two of them, I think. Next up is FPL Hitman. Says, hi, James. Hope you're well. Couple of wildcard questions. Goalkeeper pairing choice and is Saka by... If I had to lock him right now, having not looked at rotations too much, honestly, I'd just be going for Brugge and Dubravka at this moment. In terms of is Saka a buy? Yeah, sure. If you can fit him in, fit him in. I've not got a reason to tell you not to. And that will answer Jalik's question as well. Wish you luck. That's kind of the same thing. Asking about him on Wildcard. Gaz's Sunshine Tab says, hi, James. Hope you and the family are well. Would you bring in Semenyo, Rice or Gakpo this week? Well, it wouldn't be Semenyo at the moment, would it? I'm moving to a 5-man midfielder, bringing Krupi Jr., who might be able to cover if Semenyo is out. I'll go Semenyo. If Semenyo doesn't play, I don't think it's Krupi Jr. that will play, just as a reference point. Will Shaw says, pros and cons of Cunha versus Gakpo. Gakpo... not as assured of minutes moving forward beyond this week. Be very surprised if he doesn't play this week. Cunha's a little bit more security. Long-term fixtures really good for both. Gakpo record in home games. I think you can deviate. Gakpo record at Anfield, great. Cunha record in terms of form recently, not astonishing. I think you can pivot from that Gakpo to Cunha at kind of any point if you want. The other way round be really tough. So I'd go Gakpo personally. As long as you feel comfortable that that's a possible transfer for you. And you have to keep reviewing Gakpo every week. If you don't want to do that, then it's Cunha, isn't it? Berticus says, bench either Ndiaye or Bowen, mate. I would play Bowen. I didn't bother putting him on the bench in dilemmas because I don't think there's any prick with him left other than me. John O'Reilly says, who are your locks for wildcard? Haaland. Right now, that's it. That's it, truthfully. Because there's every chance I look at even setting up to buy like Boomo in 14, stuff like that. So other than Haaland, no one else is a lock. That's not me hiding information. That's the truth. Because the other two would have been for me, probably Semenyo and probably Gabriel. Gabriel would have been a definite, right? China 1000 says, hi James, start Semenyo or Minter. I would still start Semenyo. Mod says, hi James, is bench boost with Dubravka, Anderson, Road and Calvert-Lewin good enough? Calvert-Lewin, Anderson away. It feels like there should be a better week there, is my instinct. I'm just looking at Leeds fixtures. Not many. 16 or 17, I think, maybe. Yeah. Just looking at 16, maybe, with those same four players, might be the one for you. Liam O says, bench one of Thiago, Marino, and Rogers. Real Nixter says, hi James, don't want Semenyo long term, therefore open to selling. Wondering if you think it's worth going to Bruno Fernandes for -4. I have enough in the bank. I'm going to say no. But if it's something that's going to end up being a -4 this time next week or in 14 anyway, and you're saying that's what you want to do, then sure. Hum Shelby says, hi James, Gakpo captain. I wouldn't go that far, mate. Vulva9 says, good morning, James Sudge. Hello. Says, I'm leaning towards playing Senesi over Thiago. According to your bench dilemmas, would you play Thiago? Can you elaborate why? 90 mins and pens, I guess. Smash it. I got nothing else to add, mate. You've answered the question for me. Thank you. Maru says, hey James, play Rodon or Van der Ven or King. I'd chance King, I think, personally. Jay Barker, morning James, bench one of Rodon, Doku, and Jorginho. Oh, Jorginho Rutter. I would bench Rodon from that lot. Sean T says, morning, mate. On wildcard, who do you prefer? Sarr, Doku, Thiago, or Rice, Potts, Mateta? Now, that's difficult to answer, mate, because the first three, I presume you want to play a lot. With the other two combination, obviously Rice, Mateta plays every game and presumably Potts never plays. There's got to be an impact to that to the rest of your team. So I feel liable to say A. Defola Sharp says, morning, James. Currently on wildcard, going for a couple of punts and not completely template. Do you prefer Rodgers and Semenyo, like Villa next to, or Sarr and Cunha? Puts me triple Palace. Sarr and Cunha comfortably on that, I think. FPL Hitman, bench one of Timber, Senesi, Lacroix, Gay, VVD, Thiago. You can use Timber for Calafiori on the bench in dilemmas, and you can use Gay in the same place as Lacroix. That's probably going to lead you to one of Lacroix or Gay. I'd pick Lacroix over him, personal. Denawani, Isak or Ekateke? Ekateke if you must. 5 A's and some numbers. Start one of KDH, King or Tossin. I have got him in my predicted team. I don't know what my confidence in that is. I'd go King. Personally, I do think he plays with Lukic suspended. I think he'll be back in the team. But that's a tight one, really. Where are we in chat? Next up is Diff Team question. Captain Sarr or Saka, FPL Sky Blues? That's a Saka job, mate. You're welcome, JP Zoo. Gel Cocky. This with the numbers on here is awful to read the names. I'm so sorry. Gel Cocky says, I'll play draft. Start Sanchez or Raya. Every game, mate. Grab Markner says, is it stupid to have Konate and Van Dijk or just go Timber? Already have Raya. I mean, yeah, I would pay the extra for Timber over Konate, but I don't mind it. Magician says, hi James, who shall start out, Van der Ven, Rodon or Reinders? Rodon probably out of that. Tom Hines says, morning James, Semenyo or Gakpo to start or be first on bench? My God, great content as always, gives a beautiful header rub for us all. The answer is someone else. But yeah, if you've got Cody Gakpo, you've got to play that this week. Matt Hemworth, playing Raya. Should I play Minter over Saliba? It's tight on benching dilemmas. No, the Arsenal player, mate. Yeah, I don't think we score tomorrow. Ken Hughes says, hi James, how do you rate this week's captaincy? On the screen, mate. Haaland's form versus Newcastle home defence. Saka potential DEFCON. Let's not look at Saka as DEFCON, mate. There's every chance doesn't hit it again all season. Versus Tottenham, Mateta versus Wolves. I explained right at the start of the stream, mate. Tom Salvadori says, hi James, I'm on wildcard 12, bench boost 13. Would you buy? I've definitely done that one. Carl's Jang here. Hey mate, Semenyo and Reinders to Minter and Sarr to effectively get rid of Reinders. All free transfers. Cheers, mate. Yeah, I'm okay with that. Joe Wallen says, hi James, play 2 of Reece James and Dyer Semenyo. If I had Reece James, I'd want to play that. I don't see Reece James coming off the bench. Yeah, we could do. So the nonsense say I can't see that, sorry. But I visualise that they're comfortable, they don't need him. I wouldn't want to bench Reece James. I'd go Semenyo, Reece James, I think. Tommy in Peace says, morning James, I have 0 transfers on Gabriel Semenyo. My only playing sub is Tarkovsky. Not sure whether to just roll, play Tarkovsky and deal with Gabriel next week or take a -4 for a defender. Yeah, don't ever love that. But like I think with the price changes, like you might not have been impacted by the price changes at all, but like for me, losing on Gabriel and gaining on Van Dijk was like I had to move last night. -4, can it wait for a week? You're effective over Tarkovsky, who probably hits DEFCON. Probably not worth it if you can wait and you're not done over by value, but don't be surprised if Gabriel loses price again, like tonight or tomorrow. Everyone's selling, aren't they? Ben Thomas says, hi James, on wildcard, what combo do you prefer? Raya, King, Thiago, Verbruggen, Minter, Thiago, Verbruggen, Cunha, Go. The one with the more options for Christmas, I'm going to say B. Theo says, hey James, hope you have a nice day. What are your thoughts on midfielders this week? Not keen to go Saka, and I already have Bruno, so Bumo seems overkill with W United. Any punch you'd go for, Bumo? I do not think that having two Manchester United midfielders would be overkill. I think there's every chance a lot of us will end up there. Bertica says, hey James, one free transfer, want Bumo in, but who to sell? Semenyo or Ndiaye? Or roll and play Semenyo with Ndiaye to come off bench if he doesn't play. The opportunity there to get Bumo, I would probably take at this moment. Josh Ulaj says, hey James, would you trade Saka to Mo for a free trade? Love your work, mate. Truthfully, no. I don't know if that's a draft question, but no. Doubters to believers, sell Semenyo for Gakpo or roll. Have Michael Keane as first sub. Thanks, mate. That's possibly an easier one to roll, particularly if you still want to have Semenyo long term. I feel like there's a real split on Semenyo's fixtures, by the way. Like next three, if he's available, pretty good. You look at Chelsea, Manchester United, Chelsea, Arsenal all over a period. So Chelsea twice between 15-19. And then he doesn't get much easier afterwards either, looking even a little longer term. Brighton away 20, Liverpool at home 23. Kind of, if you look up to 23, it's a pretty shit run. I think he'll be a big sell if he doesn't start this week. But there is the value side to it. And if you think you're going to want to hold long term, that's now a play. Remember, this time last year, but a little bit later in the season, Gameweek 14, so many of us sold Bumo. And it hurt. I don't think Semenyo's to that level of output for fantasy, but bear that in mind. Josh L says, hi mate, would you bench boost Dubravka, Minter, Joachim Anderson, DCL, all home fixtures? Yeah, that's good enough, I think, with Minter in there and Anderson. I don't think DCL's a certain starter, but yes. China says, hi James, would you bench boost with Semenyo? If I'd set up to, I would proceed. Homegrown FPL says, morning James, play two of Richards, Diakite or Ndiaye. I'd leave out Diakite from that. It's not in the Defcons the way we'd hope. Murmur says, hello sir, why captain Holland if you predict one goal for City? Because he only needs one to get 9 points, mate. And Haaland getting one is the most likely thing this weekend. The other players are all less likely to get one than him. I don't think that there is a captaincy option this week that I think he's going to score twice. So there's not enough belief to take it on, mate. Neeb says, hi there, shall I start Senesi or Ndiaye, please? They're both on the bench in dilemmas. Sephir 8 says, good morning, James. Start Porro, Dorgu, or take a chance on his Stev. Christ on a stick. Sell Porro, mate. I mean that very seriously. Sell Porro. Get that dealt with. Get it dealt with. If you must from that, take a chance that Dorgu plays, I think. Mr. T says, start Vardio or Anderson. Let's close that. That's close. Anderson just about, mate. Super Sugar says, hey James, great work as usual. No frees left. Still have Gyökeres and Gabriel. Should I get in Van Dijk or Thiago from -4? If I don't take a hit, I have Stack and Estev on the bench. Justification to remove both potentially. Gyökeres is going to go for you next week anyway, I think. So justification to get shit moved on. I do the lot, -8. I'd consider it. Russell Glenn 341 says, hi James, would you move Bowen on for Thiago or Welbeck this week? Thanks. Yeah, I would. Yeah, particularly if you're running through, Bowen is an absolute sell at this stage. It's not worked for me this week. No chance I own him next week. Russell, he could get 5 today and he wouldn't be on wildcard next week. Russell Glenn says, hi James, would you move Bowen? I've done that. Crow TP says, hi James, need your opinions. Semenyo to Bruno or Enzo to Bruno for -4 or neither? Thanks in advance. It's a neither from me, mate. Fedani says, thoughts on Bruno to Bumo. Wouldn't do that this week. I'll give you a really good reason for that. No teams conceded more DEFCONs to opposition players this season than Everton. James says, thoughts on Morgan Rogers for next 7-8 game weeks. I don't mind if you're asking a question saying Morgan Rogers for the next 2 game weeks. I don't mind anything longer. No, thank you. Doe says, hi James, I have to sell Gabriel and the obvious pick is VVD, but I want Delit instead because it allows me to buy Thiago. So is Thiago and Delit or VVD and Minter? What do you think? I don't mind that Thiago Delit route, but the timing is, it's so difficult to overlook Van Dijk at this moment with the long-term fixtures coming into the Christmas period. You're not going to bench him in any fixture till you get to game week 21 in terms of even temptation, and it might even be sell back to Arsenal at that point. It's really difficult to overlook that. Delit will be good for minutes. Maguire's injury helps a little bit in terms of the prospect of him playing in the back three, and a little bit for DEFCON. Their fixture's good too, largely. I think the VVD Minter route, personally. Jock Goat says, and Dyer to Boomer from -4. For the -4, I'm going to say no. Islam Mega Dead says, hi James, hope you're well. I have Salah and Haaland torn between captain Salah or selling him. You've held Salah for this time and now you're considering selling him. Selling him and Rangers to Boomer and Gakpo and have 3.7 million in the bank to play with in the coming weeks. Free transfers. I'm sure that can be manipulated in a different way. I would keep Salah and I would captain him. Do it. Surely this is what it was for. Edward Thompson, hi James, wildcard in 13. Gabriel to Munoz for free. Yeah, it's fine. Charles John says, what do you think of Cherky? Monitoring closely. Wouldn't buy this week. Let's take the information of the next two games. Obviously, Champions League in midweek. Proper discussion point on Manchester City players for next week. I wouldn't buy this week. Thomas Thornton says, what do you reckon? Bench one of Haaland, Enzo or Semenyo? Yeah. All feel shit, but needs must. I really want to play the others. Don't bench Haaland, mate. If he does well, take the it's going to hurt. That's his goal involvement, his XG involvement for City at the moment is just way too high. If you want to take him on for captaincy, fine. From the other guys, I would bench Enzo from that. Joe Banks says, hi James, if you weren't on wildcard next week, would you do Bone to Mateta for free this week? That was the move. I did a piece for our advanced tier patrons on a midweek dilemma last week. And that was the transfer that was most under consideration for me, if I'd had no flags, would have been Bowen to Mateta. However, I came to the conclusion that it would be better for me to have the additional transfer. That, unfortunately, because of flag players, has gone to shit. So, had I not had Gabriel injured, Semenyo flagged, Konsa flagged, I would not have done it. But because I'd have seen more value in having the transfer on the other side. But that would have been number one transfer for me. Start Marino or Anderson, says Maxim. At Start Marino. Haaland to Troy Parrott for a hit, says Jonathan. Yeah, do it twice over for shits and giggles, mate. Volva says one more. Would you sell Pope with free transfers this week and for whom? Double up VVD of Alisson or wait for Donnarumma fixture to improve? Which goalkeeper are you picking on wildcard? As I said, it might be Verbruggen for me. I haven't decided. I wouldn't bother selling Pope, mate. Fancy Wizard says, good morning. Gareth, 3-1. Good morning to you too, Wizard. Gareth says, Semenyo to Saka for free. Strong bench, free hit, 13 planned. Yeah, then that makes that stronger. Sixto Marley says, James, would you bench Virgil, Timber or Gay this game week? Gay, reluctantly. Alex Master says, hi, James. Thinking about bench boost with Dubravka, Twanzebe, Anderson, Thiago. Have flags with Calafiore and Semenyo worth the risk. It's got to be a better Burnley fixture than this one, mate. Next up is Andy MSWA. Hi James, was set to bench boost but have Calafiore and Semenyo. Would you still risk it? Bench would be Dubravka, Rice, Anderson, Bijol. I question why Declan Rice is not in your team anyway. Yes. Michael says, hi James, what do you think of free hit 13 and wildcard 14 to avoid Chelsea v Arsenal and Palace v United? Yeah, certainly a potential strategy. Game week 14 is still going to absolutely bite you in the arse in terms of rotation, especially with Chelsea. Wesley B says, wildcard 13, 1 free transfer, thoughts on a 1 week punt on Garnacho. Does he play? Shout out to our patrons again. If we've got any leaked team news, please please drop me some info on Slack. That means checking sources, etc. Not speculated rumours, which I can say. Facts. Next up is Garnacho. I mean, it is. You said it yourself. It's a punt. Fine. Thomas Salvadori says, hi James, I'm on wildcard 12, bench boost 13. Would you buy Keller? I've done that one, definitely, mate. Shafwan Kanak says, thanks for thoughts on Ginola. At the same time, how many genuinely better wingers can you name in the Prem if you say he will struggle in today's game? It's different, isn't it? It's very difficult to compare players of now to 25 years earlier. In the same way, it'd be really difficult to compare like Ginola with the wide players, you know, Cliff Jones, George Best, etc. from the 60s. I'm sure those players were better than Ginola, but difficult for me to compare. The game has moved on so much. So much. Yeah, I'm going to move on because I'm really struggling to read people's names this week. Melissa says top forwards on free hit. I would have gone Welbeck Mateta as top 2, personally, and I'd gone 5 in midfield. Tom's IRL, thoughts on Cunha, models like him. Yeah, so do I. Gazman says, hi James, please pick your preferred option. Calafiori to VVD, toss into a 4.4 roll. Thank you, good luck as always. Jan Paul Van Heck. Diljit says, question got lost, asking again, have Haaland, Saka, Semenyo, Bruno, thinking to cap Bruno's, as in my opinion it is a week to take on Haaland thoughts. Then do it, mate. Do it. But I've said, it's no point asking me. I've said the opinion, right? From that perspective. This chat is playing absolute havoc today. I'm so sorry, guys. Right pain. Luke Potts, Sarr to Saka, or leave it. I'd leave it. Bench one of Anderson or Truffer, says Starscream. I'd bench. Yeah, I'd bench Truffer. Ian from Melbourne, hit that like all, it's free. Thank you, mate. FPL Hitman, cheers. Good luck, everyone. Smash a like and subscribe. Abamatra, bench one of Minter, Gakpo, and Semenyo. Minter. Norm, hey boss, I want Gakpo. Shall I sell Semenyo or Eze? I'm not going to tell you to sell Eze this week. But actually, logically, I do think that's an okay move. Whisper it quietly. Arctic Prune says, hi James, would you go Van Heck, Semenyo, or Sarsenesi on wildcard? Sarsenesi at this point. Jens Veen says, do I start DBH? Bruno's meant to be KDH, or Mukele? Jock Goat says, and die to Bumo from -4. I've done that. It's a no. Dominic Ferry, hi James, new subscriber here, trying to decide if I should transfer out Bowen for Thiago this week or roll the transfer. I'd get it done, mate. You're definitely making that move next week, so I'll get it done. C. Fusser says, thoughts on these options. 1, Gabriel to Delit or Senesi. 2, Gabriel to Delit or Senesi and Reinders to Foden. Right, so the question here was like Reinders to Foden. Can hold the Foden move this week. I'm also tempted for Sade. Yeah, hold fire on the other bit if you can hide Reinders this week. Delit versus Senesi. Hitting this stage is a case for Delit. Senesi is way more reliable. SJ Emerson says, morning mate, Semenyo Saka for a hit feels borderline. I'm going to say no. Yankee Gruber says, hello James, I have 4 free transfers. Gabriel to Van Dijk, Semenyo to Boomer, Voltamati to Thiago. I'm presuming you don't need to do the Voltamade move for value, but you are probably going to end up still wanting to do that next week. Yeah, okay. FPL Villain, start James or Truffer. James for me. Bisho, you making any moves, Mr. Sudge? Mr. Sudge has made 15 this week. He's on wildcard. Lorenzo says, hi James, first bench Tarkovsky or Josh King in case Semenyo's out. I would get Josh King above Keane, so yeah, same thing. Clement Williams, hi James, start 2, Voltamati, Senesi or Enzo, all on the bench in dilemmas. Charles Shan 7328, hi James, when you use free hit, you would consider the game week potential can get high points or many players against each other in the squad. What? Get as many points as you can and generally go all in so you don't have players playing against each other. But if you had like 2 players from the same attack, like that's if you wanted Boomo and Dyer hypothetically, like it's fine. Lee Brunt, Thiago or Foden? Thiago. Charlie Edwards, Gameweek 12 only, start Konsa or buy Sarr for a hit, benching Konsa. Gameweek 12 only. I don't like that, just in the sense of like, we don't know what Wolves I get today, mate. And there's nothing I can really tell you beyond what I discussed on the weekend or last week to say this might happen, this might happen to help. So I'm going to say no. Maestro says, hi James, hope you're well. Bowen to Ekateke for 1 game week punt. Wildcard next week. Yep, fine. Dean Rex says, Gabriel and VDV to VVD and Munoz from -4. Other defenders are Timber, Rodon, Twan, Zabi. I'm looking at that and I'm going, am I taking a -4 to go from VDV to Virgil van Dijk or Munoz? Ordinarily, I'd say no, but that's got to pay over time. Has to. So I'm going to say yes. Not often you'll catch me on that -4 for defenders, but I do think ultimately you are definitely going to be trying to get there. There's even a small chance Van der Ven doesn't play against Fulham next week just because the condensity of Tottenham's fixtures. That said, then from 15 there's maybe some better ones, but I think you'll want to move that on. I'm going to say yes. That's Tottenham negative bias you've got there. Yashavard, I can't read that. It's too long, mate. I'm struggling bad enough as it is. On a wild card, Kanate and Sarr or VVD and Casado. VVD route. Prash Majani, Haaland, Mateta, Saka or Boomer for cap. Preferences are on screen. Rotating with the correct score predictions, mate. Prabish says bench one, Van Heck or Richards. Van Heck reluctantly. The Theo Bennett, I3N, any Chelsea news? Not as far as I've got. We are 6 minutes to deadline, guys. I'm nearly through the chat, by the way, guys. So, and I realise that's because I missed a load at the start, but fire in more if you've got them. Craig Buckingham says, hi Suj, thinking, yeah, I might as well just be Suj. Thinking Gakpo and Gu over Thiago and Anderson on wild card. Get 5 good. Make sure it's good. The other 7 attackers are good. That's all I got to say. And no shit on the defence either. No 3.9s, and better make it stronger if you're taking that route. That's my opinion. Gareth says play Thiago or Rice. Yikes. Rice. Nistable says funny that I was relieved to know that Boomer's Catherine were out of AFCON, but just found out that it was the World Cup. Sorry about that, mate. Yeah, he's going to disappear. Ham 34 Mer 67. Why is YouTube doing this with his numbers? Someone in our Patreon community, please DM me after this stream and what is going on. Hi James, play one of Minter, Thiago or Enzo. Thiago. Andy says Calafiori to O'Reilly / Saliba or hold. No bench cover. Cheers for the content as always. I'm pretty confident Calafiori will play. Mackin -4. Gabriel to Timber. What's the answer if you don't do it? Like, who's playing instead? So the effective becomes that player over Timber. They go to Chelsea next week. Like, can it wait? Can it wait? Alex Mewett says start Vicario Dubravka. I'll start Dubravka, mate. D-Tav says, hi James, would you -4 and Diet and Gabriel for Bumo and Virgil van Dijk? Thanks for the content, mate. So again, this is an Diet to Bumo -4. I'm going to say no. FPL Aunties, Semenyo to Bruno for free. Okay, if that's what you want. Ishal Curry says thoughts on Buendia until the transfers top up. Don't like. Someone asked me that on my Ask James stream. I know he's really cheap. It's like 5.3 and stuff. But it's too much competition for places. They've got Europa League games as well. You got Tielemans back fit. I think at the moment, like, he's in my predicted team for this weekend and stuff. He's playing quite well. Waiting for a problem. It's like I think it's like I can't really afford much. So then what happens when Buendia's out of the team? Same problem, isn't it? I don't see it being good enough. I can't see a situation where it's like, oh my God, Buendia's gone off against Leeds and Wolves. And then you look at Villa's fixtures for the rest of the year and you still go, I don't want this no more. So a no from me. I just fucking chat with these numbers. Giacomo Zamboni, would you do Bowen and Enzo to Bumo and Thiago or wait one more week? I get it done. If it's for free, definitely Bowen, Thiago. You can count Gay or Senesi to start. Bench and dilemmas, you can place Lacroix with Gay. Ricky Young, Truffet or Cucurella, worried for Cuckoo's minutes. Play Cucurella, mate. Milan Dog, Porro to James. I wouldn't do that at this stage, mate. Or Dewsbury Hall to Marino. Doing wild card next week. Okay, so with 1 week punts, Marino, mate. Simon B 562. Play 2 of Eze, Calafiori, Senesi, the Arsenal players. Theo Bennett says Cucurella or James, 1 week punt. I'd pick a player I knew was going to play, mate. I can't sit here and say to you that either of those 2 players are better than Munoz or Van Dijk or Timber. Have you got all of that? Have you? I don't think that's the solution, mate. Matt Maher says, is a transfer to Mitchell or Szoboszlai worth it over starting his Stev this week? Wildcard 13 planned. I'm probably not taking a 1 week punt for Mitchell. Szoboszlai could play right back. Again, I think there'd be better solutions like Lacroix over Mitchell if that's affordable. D-Dot says, draft question, Hincapi worth a gamble? I know it's your predicted lineup. Would you choose him or Fofana? Fofana's walking into problems potentially. Like, he could be great, but they're going to manage him. And actually, Chelsea need points in Champions League games to get top 8. So he may well be managed quite a bit in the Premier League. Wouldn't be surprised if he's managed today, for example. I probably wouldn't take that Hincapi gamble at the moment of the two Hincapi. Jad Like says, Rice and Thiago or Welbeck and Szoboszlai Casemiro on wildcard. Rice and Thiago, mate. Gary White, play Rutter or Ndiaye. I have 2 United players, no Brentford and Ndiaye. Pens. Morecambe 60 and Talisman. Morecambe says, hi James, bench boost, Rodon, Semenyo, Verbruggen, Truffaut. That's pretty good, that, yes. Howard Green says, hit the like and subscribe. It's free, thank you. Thomas Thornton says, do you think Enzo or Gakpo is more of a sell next week? Good luck the week. Hope your Gakpo Hall prediction comes true. Ultimately, this will be decided by Florian Wirtz and whether he's fit or not. If he's not, then the answer is going to be Enzo, isn't it? Liam, Haaland captain. You can see my preference for captaincy on screen. We are 1 minute to deadline. As far as I'm aware, there is no information in terms of Chelsea team news going round. Please make sure that your FPL teams are locked and loaded, everybody. Minute to deadline. I've got the captaincy on Chucky Manderson. Not really. Greg Frost, some streams have nicknames and some have handles. Unsure if it's a setting in YouTube Studio either. I've definitely not bloody changed it, mate. Yeah, it's awful. Absolutely awful. So I need to get that fixed for the next one. It's awful to read the names in this way. So I'll get that sorted. I'll play around. It is deadline, guys. If you have any non-FPL questions, please feel free to submit them in the chat. Happy to cover a few off. If you came just for the FPL stuff, hit the like, smash the subscribe, wrong way round. And we'll see you on Monday, hopefully. Deadline stream, pretty sure is same time next week, I think. No, it's later next week, isn't it? Later deadline, 12:30 PM UK time next week. If you want to support the show, it's www.patreon.com/Planet FPL. We've got plenty going on there. That keeps the lights on, helps me do the free content such as this. Do it only if you can afford to do so. If you want to support the show or you want access to the additional content, no one promises to make you a better FPL manager. If you wanted to be that, you probably wouldn't be on this deadline stream anyway. You'd probably be on a different one. Content next week, I can tell you, will be David is going to do the game review podcast myself on Monday. 2 Clash of Correspondence for you. Tuesday, Tottenham versus Fulham with Ricky Saunders and Lewis James. Wednesday, Villa versus Wolves, Lee Jackson, Bradley Parker. Ask James Thursday, going to be later, probably about 3 o'clock. That's to be confirmed. I will be on my way back from Paris. I have a Champions League game I need to see my team get annihilated in. I don't need to see it. I'll probably see it. Friday weekend, and myself and David. Patreon pods this week include Q&A, UCL Fantasy Preview. Clates is joining Suj for Ham and Arse. Money in Football, Gameweek 13 Preview Friday. And I will be on Wildcard this week. For advanced tier patrons, there'll also be Midweek Dilemma. I'll talk over kind of where I think I'm at on Wildcard, probably on Tuesday. Away days from Paris, away days from the Emirates if it goes well tomorrow, so don't anticipate that one. Plenty going on. Team News stream next Friday as well. Loads happening. Support the show, www.patreon.com/Planet FPL. Okay. Thomas Thornton says, Robbie Fowler or Michael Owen, God was my hero, but not the religious one. Depends here. So, Robbie Fowler more consistent for longer. The 2 players at their peak, for me, Owen. Owen for a brief period looked like he could go on and be the best forward in the world. Briefly. He's got Ballon d'Or. Whether that was deserved or not, it's debatable, but he got it. It's just tough. I'd certainly get from the Liverpool fan perspective why any Liverpool fan would say Robbie Fowler. I totally understand that. Michael Owen is also massively dislikable, frankly. But I think Michael Owen is the answer. Andy Mack says, how do you think Rob Edwards would do at Wolves? Would he turn it round and save them? I don't think he'd keep them up. I think that's too much, but he might end up doing well there if they're patient and stick to it. I think how they play is almost more important than the results in the next 3-4 months. The people there want something to believe in a period where I don't think there's love for too many of the players. There's obviously mass anger towards the board there at the moment. Give Wolves fans something to believe in, and that's probably got to be the manager at the moment. The good players that are there, the João Gomez and stuff, are going to leave. Not necessarily in January, by the way, but João Gomez is not going to play in the Championship next year, for example. So give those people something to believe in. That's the biggest thing. D. Dot says, it's a bit of an FPL question. Boo. Can you give us some detail regarding Patreon? What sort of content do you offer there that you don't offer here on YouTube for people who take FPL seriously? Okay. So you want to know the FPL content that we offer. Okay. So it's very much a mix of FPL and non-FPL on Patreon. So first thing to say is from basic tier, you've got no ads and early releases. So all the releases of audio and YouTube will go out on Patreon before they go out publicly. That's, I'll be honest with you, it's not like the day before. We're talking like half hour or an hour or so. And they go out with no ads, both audio and YouTube. So you're kind of supporting the fact that we're putting it out with no ads by joining us there. From Basic Plus, you've got access to Slack. Now, once you're in Slack, you've got access to my planner. And that might be the biggest thing from an FPL perspective that might help you. The other thing that might really help you on Slack is the other patrons, the community. It's not Twitter, mate. It's not a horrible place. People on Slack are very helpful. You ask an FPL question in there, someone's highly likely to come and try and assist you. So if you engage with the community there, help others, and they help you, you're going to find that really useful as well. In terms of the podcast, so the Q&A is entirely up to, we will answer near enough every question on our Q&As on a Monday. Those can be FPL, non-FPL, it's patrons' questions. Ask whatever they want. You know, what did you eat last night? Ask me whatever they want. That will normally be me and Suj. So there's that. In terms of the other podcasts, there might be things that you get from Tottenham stuff. We're going into way more detail on Tottenham. Suj does West Ham. Clayton does Arsenal. When we do those podcasts, that's not a lot of FPL, but you might find some of that useful. Money in Football you won't find useful for FPL. The differential show you'll find very useful for FPL. That's us giving an overview of every game ahead of the weekend, discussing in more detail our own transfer plans. We look at differentials. We look at 1 week punts. That's the biggest one. In terms of the advanced tier content, so I do something called the midweek FPL Dilemma every week for advanced tier patrons, where I'll kind of laser focus on my own team and more longer term planning. This week I did a little piece more in terms of like Gabriel replacements, and yes, the conclusion was Van Dijk on Tuesday. That will normally be on a Wednesday, but it's possibly going to be Tuesday for the next couple of weeks, maybe, just because of personal circumstances. So the FPL Dilemma, I know a lot of our patrons say, even though it was a lot about my team, they find some of the thought process of the stuff I think about in terms of, you know, future planning and stuff like that. They find that quite useful. Team news stream on a Friday. So that's me detailing all the team news, all the predicted lineups, some of the reasoning behind the predicted lineups that you see on screen. There's also opportunities to ask questions on that. I host a Zoom call for our advanced tier patrons at various times every week. You can join on and you can speak to me face to face if you want as well. So there's lots on there. But I wouldn't lie to you. I don't want people to come specifically to Planet FPL Patreon just for FPL. I don't. My role, I feel like with the community is more like there's better FPL managers out there than me. There's better FPL content creators in terms of producing. Where I come in here, I think is the choice that I offer. Whether you want it additional FPL stuff, whether you want non-FPL stuff, it's about choice. It's the community that we've built, and joining that and supporting the things that we do. I wouldn't say, again, I'm not going to say to you, I will make you a better FPL manager if you join a community. You might become a better one by consequence of other things. But I wouldn't sell it to you. Support the show and you can become an FPL expert. I ain't going to do that to you, mate. God, that's a good answer, wasn't it? No, James, you spoke too much. Next up is FPL Hitman. How are we feeling about the derby? Gabriel injury could be pivotal in the title race for Arsenal. Not good. I wish it was Monday. No, I don't, because then I'd have to talk about it as well. James OYC says, hi, James. What age are you planning to take Harry to Spurs if you haven't already? That's up to Harry, mate. It's entirely up to Harry. If he's never interested, he's never going. Legit. So I'm not going to take him anywhere that he don't want to go. I would maybe take him to like a friendly at some point or something to see if he was generally interested. I'm not gonna put anything on my son that he doesn't want to do, mate. Jonathan says favourite North London derby memory from the 90s. I think you'll snatch a draw tomorrow. I'll take it. Favourite memory from the 90s. I mean, there's the obvious FA Cup semi-final from 91. Failing that, I'm gonna say in terms of league wins we had, my favourite one was probably 95, 96. Probably that one. Chris Armstrong scored the winner. Teddy Sheringham would equalise, and actually Arsenal dominated for the first 15, 20 minutes. Real Fox had probably his only ever good game for Tottenham. He had a worldie and never had another good game again. So I'd probably say that one. But obviously, beating them, whatever the circumstances, great. Ian from Melbourne, evening James. Why were Tottenham short so long in the 91 Cup final? Do you still have any souvenirs from the day? Me, no, but Dad would still have like program and stuff like that. I've still got the shirt. Doesn't fit me. It will fit the little man. Why were the shorts so long? Well, in the 80s, the shorts were obviously really small and tight, and Tottenham were one of the first to go, right, we're going to change this. And then, yeah, it was also... The kit design for that particular year was also, if I'm correct in saying this, was also a reflection on the 1901 kit, I think, when Tottenham became the only non-league team to win the FA Cup. And I think it was modelled off that. Now, back in 1900s, it wasn't huge design, but part of the design back then in 1900 was the shorts were long. So that's probably part of the reasoning, I think. Baron Bain says, is anyone wildcard after game week 13? I have a good team, don't see a huge need to wildcard, especially 5-3 transfers. Is there a game week post 15 that makes sense to wildcard in for managers like me? Don't know what your team is. Not really interested in discussing FPL anymore, mate. But yeah, if you don't want to wildcard, don't wildcard. Simple as that. Listen back to the discussion me and Harry had on Monday's podcast. Harry will answer it better than me. Like, don't do it for the sake of it. There'll be opportunities. You know, maybe even if you wait till like 19, it's like, I can see January, February. I've got more information in terms of blank, double possibilities once the Carabao Cup quarterfinals are gone. You can open up to a little bit more punts as the fixtures spread out and stuff like that. So you don't want to use it, mate. Don't use it. That's all I've got to say on it. Johnny Egg says, would you rather go on a Mediterranean cruise with Jessica Rabbit or a trip to Vegas with Gareth Bale and Gary Mabbott? Why did you pick Jessica Rabbit? You could have at least made this something that would destroy my marriage. I would go with Gareth Bale and Gary Mabbott, mate. Diljit says, on a scale of 1 to 10, how annoyed are you with people calling you Suj 5 days later? I'm not, because I deserve it. Absolutely deserve it, mate. Have a look at the short we put out. Like, I completely deserve it. So, no, it's definitely worse things I can be called than Suj, mate. Thomas Thornton says, do you remember Romario and Stoichkov playing for Barcelona? Absolutely. Brilliant. They were both, I think they were both part of the team to beat Manchester United 4-0, didn't they, in a game at the Camp Nou? Yeah, brilliant team, brilliant players. Both had a great World Cup 94 as well. Tabletop Journeys. Hi, James. Do you also follow cricket, the Ashes? No, I've not been. I've been looking out for the score when I'm getting up, and the cricket channel in Slack that we've got on Patreon. He's very busy at the moment, let's say. That I tend to look at the score and what's happening, and I know, like, it's fucked already, isn't it? I don't know if it's done, but Australia were going to win this morning, weren't they? Right. Marker Skeen says, if you were Eddie Howe, how do you set up best to beat Pep today? The way he normally sets up. Very aggressive in the press. Mid block to let City have it in terms of centre backs. Low block and narrow once it approaches towards their final third. I don't love the kind of 4-5-1 mid block setup, but I think by natural cause of positions Cherky and Doku will end up in, I think Newcastle's midfield three will just end up a little bit deeper without the ball today by natural consequence. So not massively differently. Use the advantages you've got. What do we think about St James Park? Right, it's a 5:30 kickoff. The crowd will be up for it. So use all those things to your advantage. Play with intensity. Press high. All the usual bits. Wouldn't do anything specifically massively different. At the moment with City, you've got to be really conscious of the central areas. Really, really conscious. But the outballs for Newcastle are in the wide areas anyway. And that actually could even be where you expose City. So I wouldn't deviate too far from what he specifically normally does. Glenn Watson says, hi James, love your work. I saw the overlap talk with Paul Scholes and he impressed me hugely with what he does with his son. He has elevated, in my opinion, big ups to him. I can't comment on that, Glenn, because I don't know what that is, but it sounds good. This bloody chat. Anol Moseko kept Enzo on the bench. Gut feeling, but I can't bother with FPL anymore, mate. Sorry. The team will be out in a minute. I'll tell you what it is when it drops. It's not dropped yet. I'm not, or else I can't bother to do that FPL anymore, mate. I'll literally do a free hit draft on the weekender with David next week, mate. Enough. It's gone. I got my own wild card to think about. I ain't thought about that. Mark Raving Mad says, are you surprised that no Premier League team went for Bilal El Khanous? I think Palace and possibly others were rumoured to be looking at him. Yeah, Tottenham were a little bit as well. But yeah, either didn't offer what Leicester wanted or not enough, or yeah, talented player. I couldn't tell you honestly how he's getting on at the moment. Stuart Day says, hi James, you have Thiago to blank this week, so would you play Gay instead? Thanks and smash a like. I don't think it really matters at 7 minutes past deadline, mate. Nistel Ball says, do the fans who go to watch their team every game need to be financially stable, or everyone just goes regardless their income? The tickets are pricey, just a question for the knowledge. Everybody's circumstance be different, isn't it? So away tickets are not the expense. It's only £30 away from home. That's everywhere. The expense is on transport. It can be done cheaply. So if the priority is just travelling to the game, many teams will do like subsidised coaches. So Tottenham will do like a coach to Newcastle for a tenner. I will still pay for the train because it's shit. So I'm in a position where I can do that as a choice. If I wasn't in that position, I'd be getting on a coach. So in theory, Newcastle away for someone like me could be done for 40 quid. Coach, £10, ticket, £30, bosh, done. Coach take you straight home, don't need hotel, 40 quid. Pretty good, right? But not the most enjoyable experience. You're like dropped at the ground, up the stairs, get the lift, people. Watch the game, see your team lose, bat on the coach, get off the coach at like 4 o'clock in the morning or whatever. Right, it's not great. But circumstances be different for everyone. For me, I don't have enough else in my life that I want to do other than watch Tottenham. So for me, I'm pretty convinced that no matter what, I would find a way. But if it's a choice between feeding my son and going to Tottenham, I would feed my son, I know. But I would. So I think a lot of people will make sacrifices. Most who go to every game will make some form of sacrifices. I spend a lot. The patrons will know. I spoke it on a podcast a couple of weeks ago about the amount of money that I've already spent on Tottenham this season. It's too much, but it's also, as Suj quite rightly said, that's my passion. So everyone will be different, mate. Tickets, home games, yeah. Depends where you go, but wild, yeah. Chelsea have still not posted their team as far as I can see. I'm on their official Twitter. Much be they haven't posted it there. Burnley teams in. Charuna plays, not Josh Laurent. Otherwise, it's the same. That's quite interesting. It could be a back four for Burnley. Right, the Chelsea 11. Chelsea haven't posted this yet, but this is from Nizar Kinsella. Sanchez, Reece James, Adarabioyo, Chalobah, Cucurella, Andre Santos, Enzo Fernandez, Neto, João Pedro, Gittins, and Delap. So no Garnacho in the starting team, no Moise Caicedo in the starting team, no Wesley Fofana in the starting team. Otherwise, you're probably okay. Just a note to say, Andy Mears, let's talk FPL, had a message telling him that Semenyo starts. There was, by the way, I'm glad I didn't share it, a little bit of rumour going around that Enzo wasn't starting and FPL creators were selling him because they knew. Not true. There's no cartel. And if there was, I'm not in it. Next up is Thomas Thornton. I came on in a 4-0 win against Michael Owen for my school. He was very unlikable even when he was 14, 15. Robbie was something special, but I know Michael was too. Julio wrecked his Liverpool career. Etsy says, I reckon Spurs will get a draw. I hope you're right, mate. Thomas Thornton, off the back of that, what is your favourite strike partnership in Premier League history? Keane and Berbatov. Like in terms of a pairing. I mean, you're asking me personally. I guess best duos in Premier League. Henri Bergkamp, York Cole. I don't know if you can kind of put Drogba with anyone. Same with Suarez. Sturridge, a little bit. Aguero and I don't think anything quite fits into that. Haaland and doesn't fit, does it? Say Haaland, De Bruyne. I don't think that's right. So favourite for me, I would say probably Robbie Keane, Berbatov. Winter period of around about 07, 08. Phenomenal. But then also Dele and Harry, right? Harry and Sonny. That doesn't feel like partnership to me because they never played up front together, really. Sonny played wide, whereas Dele could be right up front with Harry. So, I mean, Harry-Sonny's combination for goals deserves for them to be right in that conversation, right? I'd say best, though, in terms of quality, probably reluctantly, probably Henri Bergkamp for me, I think. Grim. Next up is thank you FPL Uproar. Not doing FPL. Thank you. Not doing FPL. Yeah, Ash test over. Joey says, James, could we have a high level assessment of Spurs so far under Frank? As expected, excited for what's to come, worried. Again, I don't want to sell Patreon, but I speak about Thomas Frank a lot on the Tottenham pods there. I'll give you a summary. Right person to stabilise the club, probably not the right person to win major honours. But it doesn't mean I want him sacked or anything like that. Or I think there's a scalability that I can't see my team playing like Pep's or Arteta's or Slots or can't. But it doesn't mean that you can't achieve real good in the short term, like get us back into top 5, top 6 and stuff like that. Who's next? Sitting here in silence is no good for anybody, is it, James? Greg said, did anyone ask where you reckon Semenyo should go? I don't think so. We discussed it quite a bit, me and Clates, on the Clayton James show on Tuesday. I want to say, since we recorded that, lots more talk of Liverpool, primarily. Nistable, oh my god, thank you a lot for your response. That helps widen my world lots. in relation to ticket pricing, yeah. FPL up probably the team. King Amando Enzo playing Deeper. That's what I'd expect to play this week. Joey Nearcat, Beardsley and Ferdinand for me. Yes, good shout. Even Les and Shearer for that 1 year as well. Beardsley, Cole. And Newcastle have had some other good ones as well. But Isak not really a partner, and you probably don't want to speak about him anymore. Jim says Kitson and Hartson of. Yeah, of course. Aaron Curl, that coach price is amazing. 50 or 60 for Sunderland fans to London area. For home matches, tenner on supporters bus about train miles away. So it does depend. So don't always do it. So I think, like, for example, when we played at Everton, I think the coach was 40 to 50. So it's not like a tenner every game. But they do it for certain games. So something like a Newcastle away midweek, they're going to try and like really help. So it's not always that way. And it's not done through Tottenham. It's done through a different company, and sponsors of Tottenham will help subsidise those coach price. That's the way they sell it. Birth Media says, when are you activating your wild card? I'm copying 50% of your team. I definitely wouldn't copy 100% of it. It'll be today, mate. This is certainty. Mark Raven Mad says, Sutton and Shearer. Yeah, shout. Yeah, I can't argue that. Premier League title winners. You could go really deep in it. I'd even things we're spitting about Robbie Fowler. Collymore and Fowler at Liverpool around about the same time. Really good. There's loads you can choose. Phillips and Quinn, for mention Newcastle, Sunderland. I think putting them right at the top. But everyone will feel like if they support a club that's played in the Premier League, will have their favourites. What about, FPL one? Dini and Igalo. Living Legend says, best Daniel Levy replacement. Hopefully the people in charge of the football club at the moment is fine at this moment. Right, I'll leave it there, guys. Enjoy your weekend. Smash a like, hit the sub button. I hope your arrows are green. Have a great weekend. As said, David standing in for Suj on the Game Review podcast on Monday. Look forward to seeing you there. Michael Bayer says, hi, James. Love Planet FPL and the community. Love you too. Have a great weekend, everyone. Ciao for now.